Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from asortofinterestinlife.com and you're joining me on board the Intex Challenger K1 kayak. So let's give it a quick review. I've been using this for the last 4 or 5 months now, so got plenty of use out of it in various weather conditions, and also recently took it out onto the sea. Let's see what are my findings. If we start with a quick overview of the kayak itself, you can see it's pretty simple and what you would expect. It's inflated in 2 main parts, the bottom part and then this top section, which are separated along that mark there. And it's got a little net to store your bag or bits and pieces that you may want under there. But I will advise you not to put anything too delicate there, because you're likely, at the first at least, to drop a lot of water off the paddles into this area and onto yourself as well. So, what it comes with apart from the main kayak, you have this, which is a footrest to go down the very front end. You have the seat, which I will show you how it straps in just a moment. And you also have obviously your pump and then your oars. You will see the bottom of the seat has these Velcro strips, as does the kayak, so those link up. And then to keep the back rigid, you have this adjustable strap which just clips in as any other clip of that nature. Now, I personally don't use the seat or the footrest because I tend to have a bad back, so because of that I prefer to kneel up when I'm in this. You can pick these up for around £70, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, depending on how lucky you are. You know the wonderful world of the internet and Amazon's prices these days. And I think for that price this is absolutely fantastic, a really great, well, just loads of fun that I've had on this, and I can't think of much that for a pound to fun ratio can compete with something like that. But ultimately I think its key strengths are, it's really stable in the water, even when I was on the sea. Even though the sea itself was really choppy and it was quite a windy day, the kayak never felt like it was going to topple over. It was more just bobbing up and down and rolling around on top of the waves themselves. So that was definitely something that I was very pleased with, because I'd been looking forward to getting out on the sea with it. Obviously, while we're out here on the canal, you can see how still the water is, even with a lock just up the way behind us. This is absolutely perfect. Because I don't use the seat and I tend to kneel up to save me back, I'm slightly, I'd say I'm probably at the same level that the seat would put me if I was sat down on that little cushion of air. But because I'm kneeling down, I prefer to not have the seat, because then that lowers me a little bit, whereas I would be way up here. And keeping that low centre of gravity definitely helps you not feel top heavy and like you're going to topple over. Flipping it round to see the underside, you can see it's once again pretty much what you would expect. I will say though that the fin is a very important piece. I've tried using it without the fin in place and I'm amazed at how much you swivel around, and every time you paddle you wildly spin to one side, and such a small fin makes an incredible difference. Now, there's one thing that I've got to point out for the honesty and fairness of this video. I did have a puncture on this out of the box, so that doesn't stand it very well, obviously, in many respects, because it's got a puncture. It's like the worst thing that could possibly happen to an inflatable kayak. But what I think happened was, the way that it was all folded up in the bag, when I then inflated it, a little bit of this, a bit of the material itself got pinched together, so that the more it inflated, a huge amount of pressure was put on there, and that eventually just created a little tear. I've got one of these little strips on here, and the puncture itself is there. This other air is just, I'm not really sure what it's there from, but that strip's been on for a couple of months itself now, and I've been having no problems with it, so that at least stands in its favour. But for fairness and honesty, I'll just point that out, and I've got to say, really, I assume that this is a one-off and just a bit of bad luck on my part. Because of the puncture issue that I had with the bottom section, I did test it out and deflated the bottom section and got in it, and the top section alone was enough to keep me afloat. So I was definitely pleased to know that, if there ever were any serious incidents. Yeah, when it comes down to it, all I can sum up by saying is, just wanted to make sure that boat wasn't too close to it. All I can say in summary is, for the price, it's absolutely fantastic. For the general fun and games of just getting something to be able to get out here onto the water, this does the job absolutely perfectly. I can't complain about the build quality or anything, minus the puncture issue. I certainly can't complain about the times I've had out on the canal. On a beautiful day like this, it would be wrong to start complaining about anything. a fantastic little kayak, and definitely in comparison to some of the rigid kayaks, I think this is far more handy to be able to deflate it. And even though it goes into a very large bag when it's deflated, it's still infinitely easier to transport around like that in a car, or even by hand over short distances. It is still very heavy, because remember, you've got like things like the paddles and the air pump that you'll need, and just having that and being able to chuck it in the boot of pretty much any car, that definitely is a big advantage. And really, while this boat's heading towards us, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Check out my other videos for loads of kayaking on the sea, out on the canal like this, or just in general, being out in the outdoors, walking up mountains, narrowboating down the canal, just having great times outside. So, thanks for watching, subscribe, check out my other videos, feel free to like the Facebook page for all sorts of scenery and photos from the canal. And of course, feel free to follow me on Twitter or add my personal Facebook account. And until the next time, have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you around soon. Farewell.